We are aware that the 2023 general election is by the corner, and Nigerians are yearning for a better government. Well, on today's edition, I will be speaking with one of the presidential candidates, Prince Adebayo Adewale, the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, the SDP. You are welcome, sir. It's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you very much.
Oh, sir, but before we go ahead, we would want to know, how has it been in your race so far? And I believe so many Nigerians would want to know what your manifesto is.
Well, it's been encouraging, it's been challenging, and it's been revealing. And I've seen that Nigerians, they want a transformation of the country. But how it's going to take place is what we're trying to explain to Nigerian people. That desire is there. But how is where the challenge is. Our manifesto is clear. We say farewell to poverty and insecurity. And every other thing that we say in detail is just how to achieve that permanent farewell to poverty. To say people will not be poor again. And to do that, we have to realize that many countries have managed to do that, where people wake up in the morning, food is not even up for discussion. People have adequate housing and good habitat. People have access to education. So if you tell a German student or a Dutch student, if you pay your school fees, you say, what does that mean? You know, what does that mean? So if you tell a student in Saudi Arabia that teachers are on strike, you tell them, what does that mean? So we want to get to that stage. We also want to have access to healthcare. So even the poorest person in England will be able to consult with the best surgeon in the world, just by being British citizens. So you want to achieve that for your people, and you want to make sure that people traveling from one place to the other, people try to use the internet, people try to use electricity, people try to just drink water, don't find these things so hard to come by. That's basically what we're trying to do is dealing with poverty. And then insecurity, we all know what it is. We need to have a secure country where people can live anywhere, travel anywhere they want, where people don't have to do Thanksgiving just because they travel for 50 kilometers and they survive the travel. So that's another thing we want to do. We don't want people being whisked off the street. We don't want one chance. Or, for young people trying to go for transport, or business people traveling around. We don't want kidnapping. We don't want any of those things. We just want to be able to deal with it decisively.
But over the years, politicians have always tell us how they are going to do a lot of things, but they have never told us how they intend to do it. So what strategies? You are here to talk about insecurity, you talked about the educational sector and all that. But we've been hearing this over the years. How and what strategies are you going to use to implement all this?
People need to listen carefully what they are hearing over the years. Maybe they are losing memory. Because the last time anybody said we are going to say farewell to poverty was 30 years ago. So it is wrong for anybody maybe not to pay attention closely to say we'll be hearing this. When Obasanjo came in 1998, 1999, he never said I'm going to eradicate poverty. When Goodluck Jonathan was campaigning, he never said that. When Buhari was campaigning, in all his top to bottom messages speaking around, he never said that. The last package was MK Abiola under the Social Democratic Party, where we gave you a package that we are going to apply the resources of this country to fulfill Chapter 2 of the Nigerian Constitution. And the reason why we have not been able to eradicate poverty is that the resources of the country have not been applied well. So, and that's where the problem lies. How you do it is that you look at food, you look at housing, you look at medical care, you look at education, you look at job creation, and any money you have in government, of which there's a lot of money, you apply it to those services. That's not the case now. Secondly, in order to do that, you will have to now start to respect every code that comes out of into the government coffers. And you have to search for every naira that needs to go in there. That is why you will have noticed that it was the SDP, led by me, that brought to the attention of Nigerians that why the government is running a deficit budget after another, why they are borrowing everywhere, why they are complaining about inability to meet their obligations, that 80% of the crude oil produced in Nigeria is stolen. When we started raising the issue, people were raising skepticism. How can you know when you're not in government? Then we kept talking about it until the government acknowledged. First they said, oh, it's 75%. Now they said they're finding pipelines everywhere. So imagine if I was president. I'm not president now, I'm able to discover that, and the entirety of the government is now scrabbling around looking at how to explain it. Imagine if we were a government. All that money will have been captured, you will have had no deficit budgeting. All that money will have been prioritized, as will not have been on strike. Doctors will not have been living in droves. Will have been building at least 100,000 proper housing units in every state in Nigeria. You do that over 4 years, you've eliminated the issue of poor housing. And poor housing is one of the easiest ways to eradicate poverty because people are going to have fixed addresses that you can know you have to reach them. When they have challenge of health, you can send ambulances there. When they don't have food, you can know that, okay, you can see some countries, including Britain, they have addresses of vulnerable people. Early in the morning, they drop milk with their breakfast and everything there. So you are able to help people. In Nigeria today, if you want to trace people, probably trace them to their church or the mosque where they come to pray. Otherwise, you don't know where they live because there's no security of housing. So those are the primary things you get. Where you see me here, where you have met me here in Katambi, it was not in existence before. It was just created. So why is government not creating more of that? So this is what we want to do. If you don't do that, you cannot eradicate poverty. This is the how. And the how starts with you electing a government that has a covenant with you. So many of the politicians that people complain about that they didn't serve them well, people who voted for them didn't vote for them on the basis of coming to serve them well. Some voted for them on the basis of their religion, their sentiment, or their ethnicity, or some actually sold their vote to them. And in many instances, nobody even elected them. They just ran the election and came in. So what we need to do now is a new start. And if we agree with us, the SDP, that chapter 2 of our constitution, which many journalists haven't read, and they don't ask questions from inside that, because if you do that, you will not be asking somebody what is a manifesto. You will first ask, by our constitution, you are mandated in government to give housing, welfare, healthcare, education, employment. Are you going to do it or not, and how? It shouldn't be dependent on somebody's manifesto because it is a legal requirement. And if you have noticed, go and review the tapes. Each president or governor, that takes an oath of office, to implement chapter 2 of the Constitution. It's always in that oath of office that they don't. So this is what is different. This is where we want to maybe give Nigeria a turning point. And you see that government works for you. Government is about services. Government is not about exercising authority all over the place. Government is about services. And there are two types of services. Some services are social services. That is to say, we have them together. So you cannot say, each person go and build your own road. Each person go and build your own housing estates. Each person go and build your own schools. It doesn't run well in society. You provide habitat for people, you provide roads for people, provide schools for people, provide hospitals for people. These are things that must be had in common. Law enforcement for people, security for people, all those things are done together. After that, individuals can now go and take care of the rest of their things. And that is how it is done.
Okay, sir, I heard you spoke about the oil sector. Now I want to ask, if Nigeria puts in the honor of becoming president, how are you going to tackle the issue of oil theft? Because we know that over the years, the issue of oil theft has been one of our major problems. So if you become the Nigerian president, how will you tackle it?
It stops because the president is not stealing it. It's something you're talking about. It's the president and his people stealing the oil. It's not, you cannot say, how do you stop it? If the president you have to have a president who is not interested in stealing the oil. All of them have been stealing the oil. Because the president of Nigeria can stop you from stealing the oil straight away.
How is he going to do that?
Because he has a navy. Last week, I was in Focados. I went to inspect the oil fields. I saw an NS striker. I passed there, I greeted them, I talked to them. I see, why is the government talking to Tompolo, for example? Why is the government talking to Tompolo? Tompolo is one man. If Tompolo, if you pass 1 month, I know how much oil theft Tompolo has pumped. That Tompolo is 1 month. How can Tompolo be more effective than Nigerian Navy? Does it make sense to you? We have Nigerian Navy that has East and West Command and has many stations, has frigates, has vessels, has everything, has gunboats, has patrol boats. That's Nigerian Navy. You have the Air Force that can fly over these oil fields periodically, even with helicopter. The ships don't travel up to 20 knots, nautical miles per hour. So even a small boat will catch up, a small flying boat will catch up with them. So they're not difficult to find. Equatorial Guinea, Sao Tome, many of the little countries around us are even catching them because they pass through their water. They're not catching them on our behalf. They are catching them as irregular traffic on their waterways. So they stop them. And they said they've stolen crude from Nigeria. But they are stealing crude from Nigeria. Equatorial Guinea, a small country next to us, is producing crude oil. They're not stealing their own. So, and who is the Minister of Petroleum? President Buhari, with Silva as Minister of State. They are the ones stealing the oil. So there's nothing there. I've traced the oil to Holland, where they are keeping them. I've seen the stag farm. I've talked to the Dutch people. Why are you coming to steal? We are poor people in this country. Look at how beautiful your country is. You are still coming to steal our home to add to this. And you say you are Christians, you have the Dutch Reformed Church. If you go to Holland, everything looks perfectly beautiful. They're riding their bicycle, they're eating their cheese. Everywhere you go, Rotterdam, it's fantastically beautiful. How in good conscience can you come to the country of poor people, steal our oil and put it here? Go to Switzerland, it's fantastic. And I found out that companies that have contract with Nigeria to sell our oil, crude oil, are also the one helping the thieves to sell it. So it's very clear that it's a government operation. That's why people in government are very wealthy. Have you not seen them that they're running for election now? They can put anything out. They can put 10,000 billboards in one town. They can gather thousands of people inside a stadium. They can blow money as they like. They can do 35,000 adverts in 1 week. Where is all that money coming from? What's the salary of all these people? It's coming from this theft. So you cannot say, how will it stop? It's a thief. It's government. So once you change the government, the thief goes away.
Okay, what strategies do you intend to use to sanitize the agencies or bodies? You just mentioned the Navy, you mentioned the Air Force. So I believe every one of us is corrupt. So how do you sanitize them? If you become there, how will you sanitize those bodies to make sure that they are...
First, since you say you are corrupt, let me pray for you. For God to change your mind. I'm not corrupt, but you say I found one corrupt Nigeria, let me pray for you. It's not worth it. Because why it's not worth it is that you are robbing yourself. It's like the person who goes to steal his own salary. Wait a day of the month, you collect your salary. In this country, these natural resources are expression of God's love for the people. For you to be born in a town and under your feet, under the soil, is trillions of dollars worth of assets. That is what God's blessing. That's what they say, that you are born in the land where you make a home. So why will you now conspire with foreigners who don't have what you have? Well, they have other things. They come and steal your home. What is there is that as president, I'm the one to appoint chief of navy, chief of police, chief of everyone. And they will take my instructions. Anytime you see a policeman on the road, collecting bribe, and he still comes to work the next day. You know that the president of Nigeria, one, is either is not aware or he doesn't care. Because if you fire this person, the next person will not wait to be fired. People in authority follow the instruction of the people who are over them. I was with the President Buhari 2 weeks ago, with the IG of police, with all the police people. And I saw that they were waiting for him to give them instructions, to give them directions. So it shows to me that the police still respect the government and they work under the authority. So anything you see on the outside is what they perceive to be the priority of the president. So with me as president, they know now that this oil theft, I'm not for it. This idea of cheating Nigerian people, I'm not for it. And when I'm selecting my service chiefs, these are the things we will be discussing among ourselves. And it is based on your commitment to these things that I'm going to appoint you. And it's based on that, I'm going to evaluate your work. And if I get any feedback that is contrary to what we agree, if I show it to you and it's true, you already know that your letter of resignation, which you have signed, which I'm keeping here, it's just for me to deliver it and you are gone. So, and once you do that, they know, okay, this is your God's priority. That is how it is. But the priorities of people in government today is not for the benefit of the people, because some of them assume, they argue with me when we meet. How can you say you create 30 million jobs? It's not possible. So when they already agree that it's not possible, they're not even going to attempt it at all. How can you say you eradicate poverty? It's not doable. But you have seen countries that have managed to do so. But it is this lack of that way. They just enjoy the offices, they enjoy there because of the power. They don't want to take on the responsibility. So the how is not difficult. What you need to understand is that it has to be in your mind first. When you wake up in the morning, you have to find out, what does the president find out? Being around the president in this country, from morning till night, they are seeing when they wake up, what question do they ask? They don't ask questions like how many people died in hospitals nationwide last night? What killed them? Why is it so? In some countries, the government is even interested in your dead body. You can't just die. Even if you sleep in your bed and you don't wake up, the whole government will stop and say, go and open the brain, let us find out what killed this person. They want to know. But you can gun down 20 people in the major city and people will report it. Next person, the governor will be smiling when making speech next day. Nobody's going to ask, wait a minute. I read in the paper a few days ago that some family in Benue just had dinner, slept and never woke up. I've been waiting for which level of government is going to make an inquiry out of that. It happened recently in Anambra State. There was a family that got killed in Anambra, in Orumba. The woman, her 4 children, just went out. Now, I've been waiting for government to do something about it. So when I went to Adamawa, I traced their village in Geye. I went to visit the family. They thought I was the government. I said, no, I'm just a presidential candidate, and I know I came to your state and I'm told that this is where you live, so I want to find out. They don't want to believe, they just assume I'm government. They started explaining to me their problem, what happened, the husband came, one of them were crying, their child, the only surviving child is there, the family left to Anambra State. So they haven't seen anybody. So before I went to see them, I was with the governor of the state. You know, we exchanged and talked extensively, and I told him where I was going. You know, he just greeted me and wished me well. So he received me very well, so I'm appreciative of him. But that family has not seen state government, federal government, Anambra State government where it happened. No. In fact, the husband of the woman, whose entire family was wiped out except him and his son, told me that he was invited by the state government to come and attend the burial of his family. So he went, they took him to the place, they did the burial. Immediately they finished. He left by the venue. He had to find his way to the motor park and find his way back to another state. So I'm giving you all these things to show to you that it is lack of care and compassion and commitment. That is why these problems are hanging around. So don't be intimidated by how any government that is determined. Consider when a government is determined to do something and get it done. As far away as Nnamdi Kanu was in Kenya, the government was able to find him and bring him back. Yes, government cannot find a missing child inside Abuja. Show to you that where government has priority, it will happen. Government is a very powerful institution.
Okay, now sir, I just want to clarify something. Over the years, Nigerians has always borrowed to fund budgets. Now, if you become the #1 citizen, will you continue borrowing, or how do you intend to raise funds to?
It's not the case that every government borrows. Some government don't borrow at all. I think Obasanjo didn't do any borrowing. Rather, he even paid down the debt that he made on the ground. So it's not compulsory that they borrow. But there are two reasons why people borrow. They borrow sometimes due to poor planning, where they have a fiscal situation. The government sometimes behaves like an individual. You are planning something and suddenly your salary is not paid. You either push that thing forward, or you say, oh, let me just borrow money from the cooperative, I will pay it back. And you get used to that borrowing. You keep borrowing more than the day to day. If when your salary is paid, you can't cater for those things. So it happens going something out of carelessness. They first they can't capture the revenue correctly. Because to collect revenue is like running a restaurant. If you want to see how government works, study those women who come on put in those, I don't know what they call them now. They are selling food to different people. And they rely on their staff to go and ask the person after finishing eating, okay, you owe us 300 naira. They rely on them like that. If any of them is dishonest or incompetent, they will be losing money. Somebody is supposed to pay you 600 without working, will not pay you, or somebody he pays you less, or he pays the person puts money in the pocket. That's how government is. Every revenue that comes to government, there's no one government office where you go and say, I want to pay. Some is on the oil wells, and I've told you how they are still 80% of the good. Some is in the tax office. Some is in overflight. Some is in mining right and all of that. So if you don't have a competent government in place, you won't be able to capture your revenue. So you will think you are broke when you are not. Then, second reason is that some are just plain dishonest and virtually criminal, in that they have come to the government to take away, to bankrupt the government. So when they enter government, all their mind is, I've spent billions to win this election, and I need more to win the next election, and I need even more to stop my opponent from featuring. So they go in there and they're taking money. And when they've taken everything you've got, they borrow more in order to take. So this is what is happening. So PDP and APC are experts in these areas. So it is not the normal dynamics of fiscal and monetary convergence that causes them to borrow. No, what causes them to borrow is that looting of the revenue as it's coming in is not sufficient. So they need to loot more. So a governor now who is running for vice president, he has about 6 months to go as a governor. But he needs money for his election. Now, so he goes to borrow money, 180 billion. So why is he borrowing all that money? He needs the money now for what he's doing. It's not as if the income and expenditure of the state normally warrant the borrowing. But he's borrowing for a nefarious reason. And that is a combination. So when we come in, we are going to capture revenue correctly. We are going to manage the fiscal side. So we will have no reason to borrow. We are going to kick out certain projects out of the budget because they are supposed to be revenue generating on their own. And those projects can on their own go and generate revenue. And if they want to take finance in order to make themselves revenue generating, that's their own. But the normal working of government, zero borrowing can lead to this.
Okay, I was in the town hall series with AIC, and you were asked a particular question, and I'm still going to ask that question again. If you become the president without crude oil, let's take away crude oil from the picture, how would you be able to sustain Nigeria without oil?
Okay, fine. Nigeria without oil is an imagination because Nigeria has oil. And
let's just take, for instance, something happened.
There's nothing can happen.
Okay.
I just want people to be serious minded. It's just like saying, oh, what will you do if you have no father and mother? You have father and mother already. So that's not an issue. What the question should be is that how can you make us to get more money outside oil than we're getting from oil? Because we have oil. And this, are we going to say we don't have oil and they are stealing billions every day? You can't do that. So we have oil. We must take the money. But we must go beyond oil. I don't know if you get my point. Your employer cannot tell you how can you survive without your salary. You owe me my salary, pay me. But you can ask me, on top of your salary, how can you make additional income? So what the question should be, on top of the money we're making from oil, how can we make additional income? Such that oil, instead of being 90-something% of our revenue, even if we're increasing how much we're collecting from oil, gradually over time, oil will come to about 10% of our revenue. And the way to do that is to look at agriculture. If you do agriculture, I'll give an example. In Southern Kaduna can beat NMDC. Right now, in Southern Kaduna, you just Kafanchan, all those places, you just find that people are farmers. They plant ginger. Now, if you aggregate ginger that they're planting there because they're struggling on their own, there's no government won't fund the NMDC. 100%. The government is not funding ginger. You just need the farmer on their own. So if you go and give them small assistance, tractors, a few other things, storage, irrigation, you will see that right now they're producing ginger of about $60 to $80 million. But that same amount of ginger, if you give them pressing machine and they squeeze the ginger and get the ginger oil, that ginger oil is worth about $1.2 billion. So they go from $60 to $80 million to $1.2 billion just by adding one process to it, which is to squeeze the ginger oil. So if you're now producing scented ginger oil and other ginger byproducts, you will see that you can, in Southern Kaduna alone, go from a community that can get $60 million to a family that can get $2 billion, $3 billion. So, now, imagine the entire month. Imagine the entire plateau. Imagine Gembu, all those places. And that's ginger, what of Goma Arabic. If you go to Kilba people around Song, and you go to do the same thing with granite, so you can actually beat NMPC. For example, you need to know that I'm an oil palm plantation owner. I have a reasonably good oil palm plantation. Now, I have my palm trees, I process them. When I am selling my palm oil, I sell it $600 per liter. Whereas NMPC, anytime they sell oil up to $85, $100 per liter, they are the whole noise over the country. So I, as an oil palm owner, I am more profitable than NMPC. Yes, because NMPC has to hire foreign companies, helicopter, fly to the sea, ship load, everything, they mess the environment. All I do as an oil palm owner is watch them grow. From year 7, they start to crop, they start to yield. And they will yield for 25 years. And as in the half year, by the 12th year, I'm already planning another set. I'm excited. And that's how Indonesia is making 10 times from palm oil than we are making from NNPC. So these things are doable. But don't still lose sight of the fact that money coming from the oil can be used as seed fund for this. That is why I made a pledge that when I become president, I will not be budgeting the oil money to pay salary and all that. No, I will take the oil money and put in a futures fund. We can only use it for things that will yield us future income. So that gradually, Nigeria's case will be like that woman who is frying akara and who is using the akara money to train her 5 children, one as a doctor, one as a lawyer, one as a business person, one as a media person, one as an economist. After a while, she will not survive on the akara money anymore. She will be surviving on the income that those children are bringing. That is how, but she cannot tell her, how can you survive without that? That's what she has now. So what Nigeria needs to do now is, for example, I observed in a number of years, Nigerians who work overseas, they send more money home than NNPC. Nigerians who work overseas, who just send money home. They send more money home than NNPC. Yeah. Yeah, because they do remittances back home. And when I was overseas practicing law, I know how much money I sent to Nigeria. As a lawyer, I earn my income, I send money home. I come from Ondo Kingdom. I know many of my cousins who are doctors in Saudi Arabia and everywhere. So the amount of investment that Ondo people spend, if you go to Ondo, you will see wonderful. It's because I have many people who work overseas. They will come home, set up a school, come home, do some charity, build houses, do hotels. So, look at a country like Philippines. It's sending sailors all over the world. And salary of the sailors are paid. Look at China. They have this construction company. They are all government agencies. And they send them all over the world. So, Nigeria can train more doctors, pharmacists, engineers, computer scientists, programmers, all sorts of people. And when you teachers as well, when you send them overseas, you're also earning income because they will send money home. So those are the many ways by which you can make money. And one of the urgent ones is solid minerals. If you manage our solid minerals, right now, I can estimate from practical experience that Nigeria loses every year about 4 or 5 trillion.
From practical experiences?
Yeah, because recently one of our mines, we discovered that the Chinese, I don't intend to insult the Chinese, but the people who happen to be Chinese, were sending people to come and gather lithium, which is used for electric batteries from our farm. So we saw people suddenly find on our mining site, villagers suddenly coming there, digging. Why are they coming here? So I have the video, I'll show you the video after the videos are here. So we saw them. So my mining engineer went to the site. What are you digging here? So when we went to do the test, it happens to be lithium. So we stopped them. By stopping them, we informed the government, because the government hasn't come, they're still wasting their time there. Then we immediately went and stopped them. When we stopped them, then the Chinese came to us and said, you have lithium here. And she said the amount of money they are offering us to allow them to go and work there is shocking. So if you take that money, and they have about 1,000 different sites where this thing is going on, at least government will make $1 trillion every month. So, and these things are under the government to be managed for the people of Nigeria. In another state here, I've been there myself, you will see trailer loads of something they are carrying out of the place. You ask the local people, so we don't know. Nobody, like I've talked to the emirs, I've talked to the people, nobody licensed these people, and they are coming there. So there's one big man in Lagos, who I don't want to mention his name so he doesn't sue you, but when I'm talking openly, I can mention his name, is the one who is working around that area. So government doesn't care. The volume of material being stolen there. If you go to Osun State, they are mining gold. Many families have been displaced. You will see Chinese drilling everywhere. So there's a lot of money, apart from oil. But in the same way, the government was careless with the management of oil money and oil resources. That's how the same way they are careless about any other thing. So it is by taking care of these other things that you can increase income from them.
Okay, it has been quite interesting with you, sir, and we hope to have this discussion some other time because there are still many more to talk about.